Hello! Hey everyone, it's me, Tara McLean, and I am coming to you live from Epiquet on Turtle Island, colonially known as Prince Edward Island in Canada. And I am so excited to be sharing the 30th anniversary of Silence, my very, very first album, and I've got lots of things to tell you all about it, and yeah, I've just been really, really looking forward to this day. I can't believe that it's been 30 years. It absolutely shocks me. I can still remember it like yesterday when all of these magical things started happening for me. So just to tell you a little bit about myself, especially if you don't know me, I am a singer and a songwriter and also an author and a mother. But back in the 90s, I was this kind of lost 20-something-year-old who loved to sing. And my history in music was that I had a father who was a country gospel singer and a mom who was an actor, and we lived out in the woods, and there was always music happening, always songwriting happening. And I had these two older stepsisters who could sing and play guitar, and they were just like goddesses to me. And I just really looked up to them, Donna and Kim. And so when I was 12 years old, I started seriously playing the guitar. And then I got my first broken heart at 13 and started writing songs around that. And it was really amazing to realize that music would kind of sew up my heart. So every song that I would write felt like a little pin on the map of my heart. It also made me realize that when I was writing a song, okay, that heartbreak wasn't for nothing. At least I got a song out of it. And I was really, really inspired by so many incredible musicians. This is my favorite right here. This is the first album that I ever got. This is Belladonna by Stevie Nicks. It is still one of the world's all-time great albums. And yeah, I still listen to it all the time. But it was a really big inspiration to me when I was a kid. Because mostly what I listened to as a young kid was only gospel music. So it was really amazing to suddenly have this sort of, deep, dark, goddessy, high priestess vibe going on. It was amazing. So hi everyone who's joining us. Thank you so much for being here. Wow, it's so nice to see all these familiar names rolling in. I'm just so excited and a little nervous. So when I was 19 years old, and I just gone through a really bad breakup, and I was demolished by it again. And I wrote some songs from that, and I ended up realizing that I was feeling sorry for myself, and there was a great big world around me that needed love and help. And there was a protest happening in British Columbia. It was the summer of 1993, and off I went because they were cutting down all of the trees, all of the great big old growth forests, and there were thousands of people that went up. I ended up getting arrested. But when I was on the blockade, I noticed everyone was singing. And when they sang together, the power of that was something I'd never heard. And I remember, because I would sing in church, and the sound of people, coming together to feel inspired and hopeful in community, I got that and I understood that, and it was powerful. But then when we were putting it into action and putting it, for something else that we also believed in, it felt really powerful. We sang, I remember one particular day, we sang Find the Cost of Freedom Buried in the Ground. It's a beautiful song. And I'd always thought I would never be a musician professionally. I was always going to be a lawyer. And at that point I thought, I'm going to be a lawyer who, really, fights for the trees and and the earth. But in those moments, and especially when I went to jail, I was sentenced to 3 weeks, but I only spent 2 weeks in jail. I got out for good behavior. And so I wrote a song when I was there. And I was invited to sing it on a little island off the coast of Vancouver Island called Salt Spring. Now this day proved to be probably one of the most auspicious and important days of my entire life. So it was sunny. I missed the ferry that I was supposed to catch, but it was fine. I had my guitar and had some friends with me. and we ended up going to the very top deck, and I opened up my guitar case and I started to sing. And what I didn't realize was that I knew people were listening. I sang some original stuff. I think I sang a Sean Colvin tune, maybe a Jan Arden song. And anyway, these two women approached me, and it was such a powerful moment because they said there was two women, and they said, "Hey, we didn't recognize that song you were singing. Was that your own?" And I said, "Yes, it was." And they said, "Well, do you have any more songs?" I said, "Yes, I do." And then they took their card out, and it was Network Records. And my immediate thought was, oh my gosh, that's Sarah McLachlan's label. Wow, this is the real deal. And so I said goodbye, and I closed up my guitar case, and I was also playing at this market the next day and recording the song that I had written. And I was walking on air from this experience. So the two women were Kathy Barrett, who was at the time working at Network Records and also married to Terry McBride, and Tony Maruyama, who had been working at Network for a long time and then was moving over to Sony Music. So I asked Tony what her recollection was of that day, and she wrote this. "Oh, sweetheart, how does 30 years feel like yesterday? Hearing your beautiful voice swirling around us on that ferry to Salt Spring Island almost feels like a dream now, and in so many ways it was. The ocean cradled every nuance and lifted it back to us like a gift. On the search to find the voice, we found you. I knew I had to approach you and find out who you were. If anyone tells me they don't believe in fate, I tell them our story. A story of belief, music, heart, and a friendship that spans lifetimes. I'm so proud of you, of your talent, your wisdom, your resilience, your capacity to love, and your kindness. How you have navigated through the sadnesses of your life with so much grace is nothing short of inspiring. You, my dear, are epic. Never forget that. I will love you until the end, and then some." How beautiful is that? That was from Tony Maruyama. And she ended up bringing me to Sony, and I signed a publishing deal with Sony Music Publishing with Gary Furness, and there was David Quilico and Janet Baker and Michelle Peck and all these amazing people at Sony who really believed in me. And in fact, Gary Furness gave me my very first capo so that I could write more songs, because I was always a very sort of basic musician. When it came to guitar or piano, I could sort of play the basics, but then we would bring in like what I would call a real musician to back me up. But the truth is I'm a solid player, but getting that capo probably gave me 100 more songs. So thank you so much, Gary, for that. And I am still with Sony Music Publishing 30 years later. Now, Kathy Barrett brought me to Terry McBride, and Terry McBride became my manager, and Network Records became my label, and it was awesome. I was with them for 15 years. But first, let's go back. I met Mark Jowett and Rick Arbois there, and they signed me, and Mark Jowett became my A&R. And he was so kind and so grounded, and he really got my music. And I mean, and to be honest, like, I hadn't really played a whole lot of shows before. When they asked me to send them demos, I put a cassette tape in one of those little stereos and press record and played my guitar into it. I mean, everything I'd done was just very, very simple. And Network at the time was very cool. It was very indie. They had bands like Skinny Puppy and Grapes of Wrath and the Rose Chronicles, the Wild Strawberries, and Sarah McLachlan. And my goodness, like, everyone was so cool, and I was so not. I was awkward and like shy, and I wasn't really honestly that confident. But I did love to sing, and I felt like I had some good songs, and so I was very, very thrilled to be making an album. So then I also got an agent. See, I didn't even know what I needed back then, but apparently you needed an agent, and an agent was there to book you. So I'm going to share a little video. I ended up with Feldman's, and I was with Feldman's for 22 years. But here, this is Sam Feldman, and we're gonna do this really lo-fi. I'm just gonna show you the video on my computer.
Tara, album number 10 coming out. How can it be? How can it be? I remember like it was yesterday when we started working together, and I have to say that longevity is a testament to pure talent in a TikTok era where they come and go in seconds. You're still doing it, you're still making the music, and you're still loving it. You deserve every success in the world. I love you. Love you.
Sam Feldman, everyone. Incredible, incredible man, and responsible for so many successes in the music business. So I'm very, very lucky. My agent there was Richard Mills, and yeah, we were together for a really long time. It was wonderful. So everyone decided that the best thing for me was to get out of my comfort zone. I was living on Salt Spring Island. I was just sort of like a little hippie kid, and I was in a little cabin. I had a keyboard, a guitar, and an eternally broken heart. And I lived in a little area called Bettis on Salt Spring, which was absolutely beautiful. At the time, you could rent a little cottage for $300 a month, and I would walk down to the ocean every day, and I liked my life. But when I signed with Sony, I got an advance, and all of a sudden I had a little bit of money, and I had all of these dreams, and so Terry McBride said, I have an idea. Suzanne Little had she was from a band called Lava Hay, and she had just made a solo album in San Francisco with a producer named Norm Kerner. So off I went out of Salt Spring and landed south of Mission in San Francisco. Now, if any of you know the area, you know that it's kind of like the opposite of Salt Spring Island. And it was a little bit sketchy. I was a little bit nervous, having come from Canada to the US and being in an area that was just, like, I just wouldn't have wanted to be out by myself after dark. I should say that I did make a bunch of demos before I went down with Greg Reilly and Stephen Necleva. And so I felt really good about the songs that I was going to put on this record, and I was excited to meet Norm Kerner. So Norm was quite the character. He walked around with a bat over his shoulder. He had this incredible studio. It was called Brilliant Studios, and it had an apartment, and I'm going to let him tell you all about it. But before I do, let me just say that Norm and I didn't always see eye to eye. In fact, I would say that, we bumped heads quite a bit. But it wasn't because he wasn't right about what he was saying a lot of the time. It was because I was sensitive. I was new at it. I needed to learn how to stand up for myself. And I think he really taught me that too. So he was kind of edgy, and gritty. And I was, just very sweet and I don't know, just maybe a little bit mushy. And I had all these mushy songs. And in the end, I think that it was, his, like the way that he was and the way that I was, and the fact that we did butt heads a lot of the time was part of the beauty of what came out of this album, because he really pushed me to be more. And I'm going to let him tell you a little story about that. And I have to say that Norm and I haven't talked a lot since the making of the record. He's come out of the woodwork a couple times to say hi, once at a live show, but we haven't really talked. And I got sent this the other day, and quite to my surprise, just the things he shared. So this one's a little bit longer than the other ones. So yeah, get comfy.
Tara. 30 years. Wow. That kind of freaks me out. But congratulations. You've clearly been able to keep doing this all these years, and entertain people, make a living, and I'm really happy to see that. So, how did your world and my world ever collide? Well, I had my studio I built in 1990, Brilliant Studios, and when we built it, we put in a 5-bedroom apartment upstairs, and the plan was that people could come from faraway lands, and they did. Many did through the decade. But I guess in 1995, Mark Jowett from Network contacted me. Shout out to Mark if he's still around. He was a lovely guy to deal with, and said he wanted to work with me and do some records. And I ended up doing 4 albums pretty much in a row for him. First one was Suzanne Little, and then You, Miss McLean. And what I loved about Suzanne's and your records is it was my favorite kind of paradigm, which was you were sent to me with songs and an acoustic guitar. And it was my job to see, hey, this one should have a full band, and this one needs just a solo bassoon, and this one needs a London Symphony Orchestra. I always loved doing that with songs. What are my memories? You know, the mechanics of making records during that decade, since I did one after another, are kind of a blur. The 2 strongest memories, like when you first told me you wanted me to do this, the 2 strongest memories that came to me, one was how unusually for a young woman, how unusually centered and together and non-neurotic you presented as, much like Suzanne and much like Mark. And that's when my first instinct were like, Canadians are different. Not growing up in this place, they really seem reasonable. Now, of course, 30 years later, here I am living in the land of, are you fucking kidding me? Obviously, it would be a much starker contrast. But that's what I remember, that you were just so real respectful, and, you know, we disagreed, but it was just a delight to work with you guys. And, you know, I remember we had dinners upstairs, and there were all the musicians hanging around, and we had some great players, because San Francisco is great for that, because there's bands on the road, and then they come back, and there's not a lot of session work up there, so those guys are just excited to play with anybody they can. My main memory, the one that really sticks with me, and the one that I've thought of many times since I made that record, is something that happened between us. It was towards the end of the record, and I don't know exactly what tune it was, but we were doing a song, and it was time to do your lead vocal, and you went out there, and you did a couple takes, and then you did one for real, and it was, you know, you came in, I said, you want to listen? You came in, you listened, and I think you said something like, I don't hear any bad notes, and the timing sounds good. And I said, yeah. And you looked at me like, are we done? And I said, no, but I didn't believe a word you said. And I guess it was a song that you written a year before about a breakup. That's my memory of it. And it was a really painful time, and you had done a lot of hard work to get past that, as you explained to me, and you didn't want to go back there. And so I said, much like Scorsese talking to Meryl Streep, I said, you got to find that character. You got to do it. Just give me 4 minutes and 32 seconds of that time. Then you can, you know, make yourself a sandwich and just relax. And you started to cry. I remember that. Because, you know, making a young, talented singer cry is one thing. Making a talented young Canadian singer cry is a whole other thing. And so I felt really bad, but I had to do my job. So, but here's the thing, you were a champ. You got yourself ready. You were like looking at me like with daggers. You went out there, and my memory of it is you did one take. You were completely in character. Sounded like the breakup had happened 10 minutes before. I was just like blown away. And when you came in and you walked past the control room, I said, hey, you want to hear that? And you just looked at me and walked upstairs. You had no interest in hearing it. But my feeling was, and this is a great time to say it, that you were mad at me for having done that. That was really uncomfortable. And I got that feeling since you left. And, you know, for many years after that record, if anybody asked me about it, I thought to myself, yeah, Tara, really talented, but I think she's mad at me. And, you know, I'm apologizing 30 years later. Sorry I made you cry, but I did my job, and the record was better for it. And I really appreciated working with you. That's my main memory. So now that we've got that all cleared up, hey, just keep doing what you're doing, you know? And if I ever get up to Prince Edward, you know, you can show me where to go for the mighty king salmon. But, you know, for now, I mean, be well, stay cool.
Norm Kerner, everyone. The producer of Silence 30 years ago. My goodness, what an incredible thing to see right now for me. It was a really hard process. Any of you who, you know, are have gotten deep in the record know that it's a very, very emotional record. And if any of you know my life at all, which is handy dandy little book, my operating instructions here, Song of the Sparrow. It's a book that came out a few years ago that I wrote, and I wrote about the experience of working with Norm in it. And I thought that I would share what I wrote after we finished the record, because what ended up happening was we ended up going to a concert together. He got me tickets to something called the Bridge School Benefit. And the Bridge School Benefit was in San Francisco, and it was Neil Young and Bruce Springsteen and Beck and Emmylou Harris and Daniel Lanois. I mean, it was absolutely incredible. And so I wanted to, the Pretenders were there, and Hootie and the Blowfish. I mean, you know, of course. And so this is what I wrote. I was so grateful to Norm for bringing me to the show and for everything he had taught me, even when it was to stand up for myself. I looked over at him a few times during the last song, and he was a mess. I saw him. He was a sweet man who just loved music. His bat was his defense, because really, he was raw, just like me. He was hurting, like all of us. He just wanted to make beautiful records. He just wanted to teach me. He just wanted his work and life to mean something. Don't we all want that? Don't we all want, just for one moment in our lives, to be a prism of something true, to be a light unto the world, to glitter like phosphorescence under the moon, or even like glass under the streetlight, to shine with no expectations? Yeah, so that was Norm. And, you know, we made this record in a month. We spent a whole month together at this studio, and it was analog. And so that means, like, it was made from tape, and we would be editing, or they would be editing, and they would be like slicing the tape. And I mean, I don't even know how they did it. It was magical. And so cool. And I feel like you can hear it. It's the only album that I made that way. And I feel like you can hear the difference. So I thought maybe for fun, we would go through the record song by song, and and we'll come back to sort of more videos. So let's start. So the first song, let's have a quick listen. The first song was Evidence. Now, Evidence was the very first song. Well, I'm gonna listen to it first, just so to bring back some more memories. Here we go. So that's Ashwin Sood on drums, hand drums. He's on a djembe. He's a master. That's Michael Bean on guitar. Played with Peter Gabriel a lot. This is a song about child abuse. First song, out of the gate. Frightened of the Shadow on the Wall.
Search my life for evidence of truth. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
So yes, that song, that was a really big song for me. It was my very first single. It was the first song I heard on the radio. It got into a ton of shows. It was in La Femme Nikita. It was in Charmed. It was the video got on MTV and Much Music and VH1, and it won the Canadian Radio Music Awards. So that year, it was one of the most played Canadian songs on the radio. And making that music video was really cool because I got to really come in with an idea and work with the director, and just I love the marriage of film and music. It's one of my favorite things in the whole world. If you watch my Instagram, you know that that's the case. I'm always putting music to little films, but having my own song, you know, in movies and on the radio. I mean, it was absolutely thrilling, especially a song that I had written about my sister Shay, and so. That song, I mean, oh, what's this? Oh my God, there's a microphone. Oh, there's no microphone. Now there's a microphone. That song, so I didn't have a capo when I wrote this. So a lot of those first songs I wrote are all, you know, just a few chords at the very beginning. And it was, I remember A minor. Frightened of the shadow on the wall. Think it looks a bit too much like me. Search my life for evidence of truth. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? And honestly, singing those words and hearing those words coming out of the radio, can you hear me now, was so validating, to see that if I added what was in my heart to my voice and amplified it, that yes, they could hear me now. It's pretty cool. So the next song that I want to go through is a song called Let Her Feel the Rain. So here's a version of it. There's two versions of it on the record because it was one of my favorite songs. And again, I wrote it about abuse, but you know, it's a very pretty song. And when I came in singing it, it was very folky. And of course, Norm was like, let's get you some beats. Let's get you some beats because, you know, obviously we had, you know, Ash on the djembe, but he wanted like the things that were happening in San Francisco at the time. There was a lot of hip hop, a lot of rap, a lot of trip hop going on. And so he brought in a drum programmer, which was like the craziest thing in the world. And his name was Mark V. And he was a sweet guy and he was brilliant. And he had this really crazy story about this time that he didn't get paid by this band. And and so when he went to get paid, they actually shot him and he survived. But I was very clear that I would make sure he got paid for his work. Anyway, he was just he's like an angel human, and I just adored him. And he worked very hard on my record. So all of the beats you hear are by Mark V. And this song, it was always the first song I sang in any set. So one of my favorite things about being on tour for Silence was obviously, like, I loved playing live. And I loved it when people would tape the shows and then trade them. So there was like a sort of an underground cassette trading situation going on, which then eventually got digitized. But there's all of these like trading situations with bootlegs of shows. I loved that so much. But I was always really nervous at the beginning of shows. And even though I tried not to show it, I would start off with this song because this song always made me feel like I was okay. It was almost like it was the way I opened my heart. And this is the song with the beats. Bruce Kaplan from American Music Club on pedal steel. So good.
she leaves to turn out the light. She's warm, you can feel her.
This is the song I was singing on the ferry that day.
No, she's just too numb to move. Captured in a photograph without a frame.
Yeah, that was an intense song, but yeah, I loved singing it so much, and that is the song that I believe pulled Tony and Kathy to me on the ferry that day. And it's let her feel. Wait, microphone. Let her feel the rain, or won't you let her feel again? Feeling through the pain, won't you let her feel the rain upon her face? Anyway, so that was that song. Let Her Feel the Rain. Now, we loved it so much, but we wanted both versions. We wanted the funky version, and we wanted the acoustic version. So at the very end of the album, the acoustic version is there. One thing that I wanted to say about making records, making full-length albums, was there was so much thought and heart put into, what order the songs went in and how much space there was between them, how many seconds between songs, how long did you need to breathe after one song before another song came in. And they had to match in some way, whether it was like maybe thematically or, what key they were in, all of those things. So that's something that's really missing from today, from people who aren't listening to albums front to back. And I still like making full albums. And I still put a lot of time and thought into those kinds of things. And my goodness, we would go back and forth. I mean, it was intense, those decisions. So yes, putting that after evidence was very important. So we had like those more sort of, that's upbeat in my world. So the next song is called That's Me. And I did see a little note, someone asking what that song was about and why is it so heavy? Well, because it's called That's Me and I'm heavy. I'm a heavy cat. No, I just, again, the song, funnily enough, when the album went out to press, one of the things that they used to do in the 90s was sometimes they would send a little gift to the people who were either reviewing it or whatever. And I was like, oh, we should maybe send like tissues because it's such a sad record. And someone at the record label said, I think this album should come with complimentary razor blades. So I thought that was kind of funny and noir and dark and still also not funny because this song was about a very, very low point in my life when I was really trying to figure out like who I was and take a really hard look at myself. And it actually ended up being one of my very favorite songs. And this song is actually in a film called Coyote Ugly. I don't know if any of you have seen it. If you have, I actually got to be in, I had a cameo in the movie and I was singing this song in it. But I just really loved this song so much. And it was my very first song to get in a movie. It was in a movie called Kissed, which is about necrophilia. Who knew? That I didn't even know what that was. I was so innocent. But it's a beautiful, beautiful Canadian film. And I was really honored to be part of that movie. And so this is the song, and this is it. This is it with beats as well.
Caught in a mirror, looking through sympathetic eyes. I've come to the conclusion that beneath
the same.
When you see me, I keep flashing that winning smile. That smile.
I wrote this when I was 20 years old.
Now I don't know what to believe. This girl made of steel, her heart on her sleeve, looking for someone to love and leave. That's me.
Yeah, that's quite the song. And it's a song that I redid for my album, my Sparrow album, which was the one that went with the book. The next song is called Silence, and that was the title track. I wrote that on January 19th, 1995. It was the day when someone that I knew took his life, another songwriter that I grew up with, Gene McClellan, one of Canada's most famous songwriters. He wrote Put Your Hand in the Hand and Snowbird, and and he dealt with bipolar disorder, and it was a really sad day for our family because he was a big part of our lives. And I had this piece of music recorded, this guitar looped, that a man named Stephen Nakliva played, and I brought it home with me that day, and I wrote the lyrics. And the recording that's on the album is the same one that I sang that day. So I went in, I'd never sung it, I just asked them to put the loop on, and I just sang it, and I sang it in one take, and that is what's on the record. And it's probably one of my proudest creative moments. It was a dark moment, but out of it came silence. And I called the record Silence because I thought, well, that's the place where songs are born. And that's just the Stephen playing. I'd often close my shows with this, a cappella. Just to leave everyone with this happy vibe. I'm gonna fast forward it a little.
With your fingers and push them apart. Put your hands in my hair and pull me down. Well, you're nothing but a stranger to me now, 'cause I'm alone past feeling, and I'm too far gone, staring at the ceiling. I know silence better than anyone. So that's the title track. Now the next song was co-written. It was one of my first co-writes with an amazing writer who was in a band called the Philosopher Kings. His name was John Levine. And we ended up accidentally writing this song, sitting in the Sony Music Publishing offices late at night. There was this huge grand piano and this sparkling shiny floor in this huge room, and the piano just echoed, and he started playing, and he wrote the lyrics as well. And it's a song called Red, and I loved singing this live because I think I have a sort of a torch singer in me that always wanted to get out, and that's what this song really gave me a chance to do that. That's Veda Hilly on piano. Her face is down and her fingers hang loose like horse tail cigarettes. Looks like half of
man is all she gets tonight.
Saucy.
Hercules, he never hurt anyone. He's the only way of getting home. So when you're between her lips and the spine of her head, when everything turns red, I see red.
Saxophone.
When you see the color of love, I see the color of hell. I lose myself and I follow.
So that song was so fun to play live, and yeah, I just felt like I really lost myself. Something else came out of me, a whole other character with that song, and that's when I really learned the value of co-writing. Yeah, so really, really amazing. You know, I've just actually realized that I missed a song. I skipped over one. So, but I do want to say, I want to do a shout out to John Levine, because he taught me so much about songwriting, and he was really into like Kerouac at the time, and he had me read a book called Maggie C, and he got me to read On the Road, and those were sort of my introductions to Kerouac, and it really, like, I was really influenced by Pink Floyd, I was influenced by Leonard Cohen and Stevie Nicks, but you know, to get that kind of beat poet, I don't know, just mentality was really, really important to me in my future songwriting. So thank you, John, for everything you gave me and taught me. You'll have no idea. So I'm going to go back and backtracking to the fourth song on the record. This song is called More. Now, Veda Hilly was and is an incredible piano player and recording artist and songwriter. And we brought her down to San Francisco to play on this record, and she made me feel really safe. She was a really powerful woman, strong feminist. When I'd be, you know, fighting with Norm, she was like, yeah, girl, stand up for yourself. She's really amazing. Anyway, this particular song is a testament to layering. Now, they were playing the piano, they were playing the strings inside the piano, and they layered me. There are 80 vocals layered on top of each other in these choruses, and this song is called More. It's a song about just wanting more out of love, and I think it's kind of cool that we just kept putting more and more and more and more on top of it. I've never played this live because there was only one of me. I'm gonna skip. Fun. Yeah, that was a really, really fun song. I absolutely love that song. And that was a joy to record. I don't remember having any arguments about that song. Okay, now we're gonna come to the seventh song on the record, which is called Holy Tears. Now this song remains my favorite song that I've ever written. And it's a song that really encapsulated where I was at as well. I always tended towards sadness, being, you know, just read the book, you'll get it. And my songs tended to be sad songs. I listened to sad music, and then I realized at one point that it was in those tears and in the sadness that really, you know, as my Zen teacher says, the wound is the jewel. And out of that pain and sadness came songs for me. And the songs were what kept me going and kept me alive. Now, this song is extra special because it's the song that my sister Shay, it was her favorite song, and she learned to play it, and she used to sing it all the time. And it's called Holy Tears. Cello. That's me playing guitar. Can't decide what is even real anymore, as though I ever knew. tangled in these silhouettes, floating face down in a river of regrets, and lots of you. Holy tears, they linger on, holding you, my light, forever gone. I mean, sad AF, right? But singing it, oh my God, it felt like an exorcism every time I sang that. I felt like I took sadness out of my body and left it. And people would often come up to me after shows and say that that was their favorite song. So the next song is called In the Wings. Now this was written on piano. It was written at Real World Studios in England. I had followed a boy over there, and this would have been, I think it would have probably been 1994, maybe. Anyway, I was very in love, and he was recording at Real World, and we broke up while we were there. And I went into one of the rooms, and I sat at one of the pianos, and I wrote this song. And I was really grateful. Veda Hilly, I'm a very basic piano player. Like, I can clunk out the chords. But yeah, Veda picked this song up and did such a beautiful job of it. And it's a song that I didn't play live because I didn't really tour with the piano. It's called In the Wings. There's a frost in the air. Summer doesn't want to play. They've taken down the fair. I sound like such a little girl. The leaves have all blown away, away, away. See if I can find the chorus. So we got strings. Yeah, I have to say hats off to Veda. She played on my second record as well. She played on live TV performances. She was just an incredible, like I always wanted to be able to play piano really well. And she did try to teach me. And I got a few songs under my belt. Like I can play Bird on a Wire. But yeah, it just was really nice to always have her there. She was, you know, it was such a male-dominated industry. A lot of the musicians I played with were men. And so it was just nice to have her energy there with me. It was really great. So the next song, this is one of the first songs that I ever wrote. I wrote it after I broke up with my high school sweetheart. And anyway, I wrote this song, and I always thought, oh, it's such a simple song, you know, it's not, I'm never going to play it live. It's just, I'm going to put it on the record though, because it's such a, you know, it's a song I've played so many times and people seem to enjoy it. And so, but I was always a little bit snobby about it. I didn't play it live. And then one day I was in Detroit, and I remember asking the audience, which I never did. Someone said, yeah, play If You Could. I was like, you guys know that song? Anyway, I proceeded to play the song, and the audience sang along. And that was the first time that had ever happened to me. And it taught me so much in that moment about simplicity and about how song, you know, it doesn't have to be so, you know, like so poetic and metaphorical that it's hard to understand. Sometimes the songs that reach people the most are just the most innocent and truthful. And this is called If You Could See Me Now. a very, very cute song. Let's see if I can remember it. If you could hold me now. Next verse. Wonder what you'd feel. Would it all come back to you? What would memories reveal? If you could hold me now, and you will never know until you're standing in my shoes. Can't remember the chords. How much you can love someone and how much you can lose. And if I could make you turn around and see how we were then, just one look into my eyes, you'd fall in love again. If you could see me now, if you could see me now. Now think of that, it's like 400 people singing along to that. It just rocked my world. So that was that song. And then another little love song I wrote was called For You. And I remember sitting in my house and I was just messing around with my capo, thank you Gary, and playing chords I'd never played. Oh, it was so pretty. Now I think the reason they call things keys is because I think they unlock something. And I remember sitting there and it's just something happened. There we go. You are all I see. Sweet obsession in my soul. Fill each moment with your voice. Breathe your beauty into me. Would I die for you? Oh, I live for you. You know I do. You know I do. Something like that. Anyway, and I just remember that song came out as quickly as I sang it just there. It just fell out of me. And those are what we like to call gift songs. Now, the rest of the record was repeats. So it was Let Her Feel the Rain acoustic, and then an instrumental version of Holy Tears, because I love the cello so much that I decided that I wanted to just put a little instrumental version, and I have used that instrumental version so many times. So at the end of this record, Mark Jowett was with me in San Francisco, and I wanted to read a little bit about what he had to deal with at the end, because I was such an emotional wreck by the end of it. And I think the pressure really got to me. You know, I just wanted to make something with my life. And during the making of the record, my mother had gone into rehab, and I had gotten this message during the making of it that, you know, she wasn't well and was in the hospital. And in fact, the end of Evidence, the song The End of Evidence, where I'm screaming and crying and just like letting it out, kind of like Pink Floyd style, was me after getting that news and going in and just like getting that out of me. And like, and it wasn't just my own pain and my own release. It was for my mother. It was for my grandmother. It was for all, you know, all of that sort of generational pain. And I got that out during that record. And then with that catharsis mixed with the pressure and mixed with the, like, you know, the headbutting with Norm and with, you know, staying in that area, I had a little breakdown of my own at the end of the record. Because I felt like I had failed. I thought, I have not made a good record. And what am I going to do with my life? Like, who am I? I was just so lost and so alone. So I thought. But I wasn't, because Mark Jowett was there. There was so much writing on this. This is from my book. The pressure built. I ran faster. I ran out of the studio at night, south of Mission. I ran faster. I ran fast. A homeless man. I passed a grimy street corners, past overstapled telephone poles and torn posters, past the lit stores that were open late, past the broken glass on the sidewalk glittering in the streetlight. Tears poured down my face. I finally ran out of breath and stopped. I sat on cement stairs, the cement stairs of a shop, elbows on knees, head in hands. I cried. I cried because I was a phony. I cried because I was full of shit. They were right. My record wasn't great. I'm too safe. Everything about me is safe. I had let everyone down. I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was Mark. He had chased me through the streets. He sat next to me. I put my head on his shoulder and he pulled me close. It's not good, I sobbed. I'm so sorry. I wanted to make you proud. Tara, look at me. Slowly, I raised my eyes to meet his. You've made a beautiful record. Truly, I'm proud of you. He held me for a little while in the damp, misty night on a scary corner until my tears dried. We walked back silently, breathing deeply. Mark always knew what to say and what not to say. I loved his silence because in that moment, that was all I needed. So really, really grateful to Mark for being my A&R, but also probably saving my life that night. But just really being there. And he was there through all the records that I made with Network. And just right there holding my hand. And yeah, he's really, really excellent and a heart and soul human being. And I don't know what I would have done without him. So hats off to Mark Jowett because he was co-captain of this ship for sure.
Tara, wow. 30 years since the release of Silence in 1996. What a fantastic time in music that was. And it's been great to see that you continue to work on music and connect with fans since that so wonderfully. It was a great honor to work with you and always a joy. And I wish you the very best of success in the future. All the best. Thanks, Mark.
Take me. So once that record was made, I'll never forget opening the box of CDs in Terry McBride's office and looking at it for the first time. It was designed by Crystal Heald. She did all of the artwork and I was so blown away by it. I couldn't believe that my lyrics were in this little package and that all my songs were on the CD. It was so exciting. And I went on tour. I ended up going on tour with Tom Cochrane. He was doing a cross Canada theater tour and none other than his guitar player was a man named Bill Bell. Now, when I saw him, I thought, wow, he's kind of cute. I'm going to share a little something with you because, you know, in the end, Bill ended up being my husband for a little. He was my husband. He was my husband for a little while. And we had a lot of fun. We toured for 5 years. We were together for 7 and we, you know, had a little baby girl. And so this is a video from him.
30 years of Silence. Can you believe it? I don't even believe that you're over 30. But I remember the first tour that we did together with Tom Cochrane, the Songs of the Circling Spirit tour. And you were just amazing every night, just wowing the audience by yourself out there and then joining us. And it was just an incredible experience. And Tom saying, don't date the opening act. And what do? Now you're my baby mama. I love you so much. I'm so proud of you. And here's to another 30 of incredible music from you. Congratulations.
Thanks, Bill. Yeah, I mean, anybody who saw me touring that record knows that it was Bill and I in a car for a very long time, playing at the opening of a letter. We would just play every single chance we got. And then when we could afford it, we added Blake Manning, who came with us as well on tour. He was a drummer and also a great singer. And that was what was going on. So I ended up meeting all kinds of incredible people. I got to open for, who didn't we open for? The Cure, Garbage, Hole. Let's see, who else? Jan Arden. That was one of my favorite moments because I was such a massive fan. And the Bare Naked Ladies. I got to do a whole tour with the Bare Naked Ladies. But like I would say the best touring that I did was with Dido. And Dido, here we were these, two young women on the road together, and we were playing a double bill. And she would play 45 minutes, I would play 45 minutes, but it was right when her song was hitting. And so I got to watch as her audience just grew and grew and grew. And her success was just, it was just popping off. It was so exciting. And we were so there for each other. And then, when my next record came out, she was really there for me as well. And we're still very, very good friends. So opening for Dido was amazing. Then I went on tour with Lilith Fair. Now, there's an amazing documentary if you want to see it. Throughout the whole making of that documentary, I guess I just, I was a B-stage artist, but I got to play on stage with some of the great songwriters and musicians of our time. And in a way, a lot of us who were in my position at the time, getting to watch like Tracy Chapman and the Indigo Girls and Sarah, Stevie Nicks, the Pretenders, you name it, Missy Elliott. It was an incredible experience. Sinead O'Connor, to be on stage with these women, and Sheryl Crow. I remember sharing a mic with her one night. It was unbelievable. So I kind of feel like I was raised by Lilith in a lot of ways. And I've always tried to maintain that ethos of supporting sisters and supporting women in music. While I was on tour, I did a lot of shows in Boston. Now, Boston, for whatever reason, there were I spent most of my time in the US, and Boston was one of those hubs where we did something special called closing radio. And closing radio means that every single radio station in that, I guess it was AAA or adult contemporary, was playing my song. And there's this one DJ named Oedipus. And Oedipus was a legend. He was an absolute legend in America. He was punk. He was one of the first guys to ever play the Ramones on the radio. He was the first guy to play Roxanne on the radio by the Police. He was a music connoisseur, and he had a radio show, and he invited me to come on the radio show and play acoustically. And he came to all my shows, and I couldn't believe it, and the record company couldn't believe it, and my radio guy, who I'll introduce you to in a minute, he couldn't believe it, and Oedipus just became one of my, dearest heart brothers in this world. And so I just wanted to give you a little message from Oedipus.
Hello, this is Oedipus. I first fell in love with Tara when I heard her voice at a music convention when she was just a budding recording artist. When we met, there was an instant spiritual connection that remains to this day. Truly uncanny. As a program director and DJ in Boston, I championed her music on the radio and booked her to perform at a variety of rock shows for my radio station. Anything to spread the word. Her voice continues to enchant me. When I moved into my new home in 1999, Tara Christianed it live with her voice. When I was married 18 years ago in front of a Buddha in this very same home, Tara was the soundtrack. I've seen her perform across America and Canada, and am always mesmerized. She is the voice of a goddess, and I simply adore her. We have a bond that spans countries and time. She lives in my heart.
Oh, Oedipus, you live in my heart as well. Oh, my goodness. I love that man so much. And yeah, we've had so many adventures together, and he's just an absolutely wonderful champion of mine. And I'm really, really lucky that he came into my life when he did, and remains one of my champions and one of my dear, dear friends. That brings me to my radio guy. So in the US, I needed someone to be working radio. So my days went a little bit like this. I would wake up in the morning, I would do breakfast television, then we would drive to a radio station, and if I wasn't at a level yet where I would get on the air, we would sing to people in their lunchrooms. But over time, I would get on the air, and the person who was always with me through that was a man named Mark Alghini. Now, Mark and I also didn't get off, I don't think, immediately on the right foot. Not in that we didn't get along. I loved him but he just didn't get my music. He wasn't like, he was like, nah, I guess it's cool, you know, I guess. But then he came and saw me play live and he was like, oh, now I get it. And as soon as we had that moment where like he got it and something clicked, and we had a lot of amazing adventures together, which is really sweet that he mentions one of them here. But everyone, this is my dear friend, Mark Alghini.
Hey Tara, it's Mark Alghini, and congratulations. I can't believe it's been 30 years since you and I worked together on your debut album, Silence. I'm so happy for you. I've always been very happy and always look forward to hearing your music throughout the years. I'm looking forward to what is in the future. I do remember so many great times we had, and one of my favorite memories of all time is, besides watching the sunrise on my loft in New York City, but more importantly, watching people react and their jaws drop when you performed for them, no matter if it was in a conference room, at a music convention, or even in an auditorium. I love you so much. I'm so happy for you, and look forward to more. All right? All the best. Congratulations again on 30 years of that debut album, Silence. Bye.
Mark Alghini, everyone. Incredible. So yeah, so that was that. I mean, I was on the road, and so many of, you know, of my favorite memories and crazy memories are from that. I moved to Los Angeles, and I met a man named Steve Schnurr. Now, Steve eventually became my A&R person at the next label that I was on. He offered me my very first major label deal with Arista Austin, which we turned down, but I fell in love with Steve, and he became a real champion for me later. So I'm just going to list some of the adventures. So I got to record a song called You with Jim Brickman. Now, a lot of people don't know that song is me because it's under Jim Brickman's name, but it actually is probably my biggest song ever. I got to sing a song called Pacing the Cage, which is a cover of a Bruce Cockburn song in a documentary called Wrestling with Shadows about Bret the Hitman Hart, which is a sort of iconic cult documentary. I got to tour Asia. I got to go first class. If you've ever been on a first class flight to Asia, it's very difficult to go back to regular seating. It was amazing. It was an incredible experience to tour Thailand and Taiwan and Korea, and I was in a movie. I think I mentioned that, Coyote Ugly. I won some awards as a result of this album. I ended up signing to a major label, and the major label thing was interesting because there was a bit of a bidding war, which was really exciting. And I got to play at South by Southwest, which is what brought this all on. We eventually ended up signing with Capitol Records. Luckily, I was able to retain a whole lot of control. Network was still very much at the helm of the making of that record, but I wanted to share a little bit about what that was like to meet the Roy Lott, who was the president of Capitol Records. Now, one thing about Roy, before I play this video, is that it was at the time when the music business was changing a lot. So we had invested so much money in my music videos and in the record. And so when it came out, it was at the same time as Napster started to pirate music. So even though we had a #2 song at radio, even though we had set it all up to knock it out of the park, the CDs didn't sell because people were, it was called rip burn. They would rip the music and they would burn the CDs and they would trade those. So it was really heartbreaking for Roy. This is Roy here. And he's a really special guy. He really loves music. He's the real deal. He had worked at Arista and was a part of Sarah McLachlan's life and career there. So I really trusted him, and I'm really grateful that I did sign with him, even though it went the way it did. But here's his video.
30 years ago, Terry McBride sent me one of the first copies of Tara McLean's debut album, Silence. I was immediately in love with both the album and with Tara. Her songs displayed uncommon sophistication, dealing with personal emotions far beyond everyday romance. And her vocals were absolutely stunning. ranging from strength to weakness depending on the lyric of the song. I was so enthralled with Tara that when I was appointed president of Capitol Records, she was my first artist signing. Her 2000 album, Passenger, showed incredible growth as an artist and as a songwriter. Unfortunately, due to the change in the music environment, it did not have the commercial success we had hoped for, despite her commitment to the market of the album. In my life in music, I've had no greater disappointment than our failure of that album. However, Tara has continued to grow as an artist and record new music throughout the years since that time. Each of them has shown the qualities that were present first in that Silence album. We are very fortunate to have been able to enjoy her artistry throughout all these years.
So that was Roy. And it's interesting that he used the word failure because, now in music, if you break even, that is a success. But at the time it was really heartbreaking. And he ended up leaving Capitol Records. And the person who came in next decided they called me up and they said, hey, I just told them I was pregnant. And they said, hey, you should probably just go be a mom. So I was really heartbroken. That was one of the big heartbreaks that I had. But I had Network, and Network continued to make music with me for many albums. And then when I finally had my third child, I realized that I couldn't really tour at the time. So I took a big break. And I just, I raised my girls in beautiful Salt Spring Island, and it was an amazing experience. And I married Ted Grand. We had a beautiful life there, but I really, really missed making music. And so I wrote a show called Atlantic Blue. It was a theater show, and I made an album to go with it. And I did crowdfunding for it. I did something called Pledge. Now that doesn't exist anymore. At the time it was amazing. And I actually, I did pre-sales of the album, and I met people. One of the things that I sold was here's 15 minutes to chat with me personally. And I'd end up spending forever on the phone with these incredible people. And I made lifelong friends. And so I just wanted to share a little bit about that. One set of friends I made was Patrick and Karen. And they're literally rocket scientists. And they belly dance. I mean, totally my kind of people. And he wrote this for me today. 30 years ago, I impulsively picked up the CD because the artist had the same name as my chosen sister. I didn't know that her music would be there for me to hold on through the worst days of my life. And I certainly didn't imagine she'd be one of the most amazing people I've ever known. Thank you, Patrick, for that. This is another one. This was a bit longer, but I just edited it a bit. Sorry, Brian. Brian actually flew up to Prince Edward Island to see Atlantic Blue. We had lunch together. He was one of the main patrons of the Atlantic Blue album, and I'll always be grateful for what he invested. But what I got out of it was a lifelong friend. He had first seen me at Lilith Fair. And so he wrote, it's been an honor to have had the chance to get to know the person behind the artist that can share that she's as real as she is talented. Aww. One only has to read her memoir, available at HarperCollins, to learn where her behind-the-scenes journey has taken her, and to have your heart broken and mended in the same read. Dive in and swim around in her life-affirming waters. To do so is to feel seen and possibly be changed. From the perspective of a lifelong devotee of her craft, one thing rings true. Music is medicine, and Tara is a medicine woman. Her words can stitch the wounded heart. Her voice is a balm for a hurting soul, and to listen is to be healed. Thank you so much, Brian, for that. That really, really means the world to me. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to do some kind of a crowdfunding or pre-sale for my new album, and I will have more information on that in the future. But I will be making, and have been making over the last few years, my 10th studio record, and I'm really proud of it. I think it's some of the best work I've done. But looking back at Silence and just how immersed I was in it, and how every single decision created this album, makes me so happy. And I still have really big dreams. I really want to tour Europe with a symphony. That's on my bucket list. I want to do a duet with Dan Lanois, maybe Ed Sheeran. I want to get this book, A Song of the Sparrow, to Reese Witherspoon. So if any of you know her, please make your magic happen. you know, maybe we can make it into a movie. I know who will do the soundtrack. So that's really all I wanted to share with you today. I'm so grateful to all of you who dove into this album so deeply in the 90s, or who found it later on, whether it was in some kind of little bin at a thrift store, or you got it at Tower Records when I was touring in the US, or some of you, even like when I was touring in England recently, people would show up with my entire catalog to the shows, and I was like, what? How did the music make it over here? And every now and then someone would have either been in the US or Canada, or ordered something online, or loved the network catalog and just ordered all their stuff, and my music would touch little places around the world. And so I'm just really grateful that music has brought me to you, to your ears, and to your hearts. And you know, it helps me make sense of the world. The world is a literal dumpster fire right now, but there's so much beauty as well. And that's what songwriting is for me. It's a way of taking the hard stuff and the pain and turning it into something beautiful. So, you know, I want to keep dreaming, and I think that it's more important than ever that we keep making art. I think it's sort of revolutionary and kind of punk rock. Henry Rollins said, you know, this is not a time to be dismayed. It's punk rock time. So I just wanted to read you a little tiny thing about dreaming. I think about every great thing that humanity has accomplished has been through vision and then action. So this is what I wrote. Where is it? Here it is. Dreams are different than expectations. Life owes us nothing, so expect nothing. But do dream. Wish with all your might on that first star. Dreams are transient. They are honest. Start with a dream and then work toward it. If it falls apart, dream again, something new. Dreams dissolve. They reform. They are a renewable resource. Okay, my friends, I love you. Keep dreaming. Thank you so much for tuning in with me tonight. And we'll see you around somewhere on the road.